Hello, this is an introduction to computer-aided design with SolidWorks. Today we're going to be getting familiar with the user interface and creating a simple cube. To get started, we want to create a new part. To do that, we're going to go over to File, New, click on Part, and hit OK. Before we get started, the first thing we want to do is on the left, click on the planes. These planes are your references for creating any 3D object, and we want to show them. Currently they're hidden. We click on front plane, hold shift, click on right plane, and once we let go of shift, a small menu will pop up. You probably won't be able to see it on your screen, but it's there, and right ahead is the show icon. Once we click on that, these planes will be shown no matter where I click. The next thing that's important is knowing how to interact with your object. Using the scroll wheel, we'll be able to zoom in or out based on your spinning of the scroll wheel. It's all centered around your mouse, so depending on where your mouse is, it'll zoom in or out there. The next thing is using the middle button or the scroll wheel button. If you hold that, you'll be able to pivot around like this. Okay, another thing that's important with the user interface is the command manager. That's this area at the top. This has all the different tools that you need to create a 3D object. Over here you have features, sketch, evaluate. All these are tools needed to create a 3D object in SolidWorks. On the left, you have your feature tree. This will have the name of your part. It automatically names it part 1, although mine's part 8 because I'm really bad at recording. And you'll have your planes as well as the origin, which is the center of those planes over here in that dot. The feature tree will also add all of the different features that you add using the command manager to create your 3D object. So it'll have a list of all of those features that you created. Okay, right now we want to create a cube. Now we have to think about what the 2D version of a cube is. And that's kind of simple. It's a square. So to start off our cube, we want to first draw a square. The way we do that is that we select Sketch. Using Sketch will let you draw out your 2D object and let you turn that into your 3D object. So by clicking Sketch, it'll then ask us, well first let's deselect that. We click on Sketch, it'll then ask us to select a plane. It wants to know where we want to draw our sketch. I'm going to go ahead and select the top plane, and then the planes will rotate to give me a good bird's eye view of what I'm going to be drawing. We want to draw a square now. The way we do that is that up on the sketch tools, we have a bunch of different options that we can use to create a drawing. We're going to go ahead underneath rectangle, hit the drop down arrow, and choose center rectangle. This will let us draw a square rectangle starting from the center of our planes, or the origin that I mentioned. So if we click over here and drag out, now we can see that we're creating some sort of cube, some sort of square or rectangle. And if we click again, it lets go. Once we hit escape, we have our square for us, or our rectangle. But the thing is that if we click on one of the corners, we can drag it every which way. And we don't want to do that. We want to have a square that's rigid, that you can't drag, with defined lengths. The way we define a length to keep it from moving is we use the Smart Dimension tool. This Smart Dimension tool is extremely powerful. It makes any line or even angle, and it defines it with a certain length. So if I click on this line and drag out, it's automatically making a measurement for that. This is currently 63 millimeters. The unit is millimeters. That's the usual unit that SolidWorks defaults to. And if we click on it, then we can select what length we want to define. I'm going to go ahead and choose 10 millimeters and hit enter. This now defined one side of our square with 10 millimeters. It's important to note that once we hit escape and leave the editing the dimension, that the top and the bottom line turned black from the blue that they were originally. This means that it's defined there. If we click on this dot, again like the corner, and we move it around, you'll notice that we physically cannot move upwards because it's defined in this. We can't move it down or up. It can only move sideways because we haven't defined this top line yet. We can define that by using the smart dimension once more, clicking on that top line, dragging out, and specifying 10 millimeters. Something that can also be done instead of creating two dimensions that are exactly the same with the same lines on the same square is we can use properties of the lines. If we hit escape and delete this top smart dimension, hit delete, you'll notice that it's back to its blue and it can still move around. However, something we can do is that we can make this line the same length as this line. By holding shift on both of the lines, selecting both the lines at the same time, we can go over to relations over here. Underneath add relations, we can choose equal. And you can see that it's there underneath existing relations now. And we hit the check mark. You'll notice now that the blue lines are now back to black because now this is also 10 millimeters based on this dimension. Now that we have using relations, now we have used relations instead of separate dimensions, we can double click on this and edit the size of our square to whatever we want it to be. And this will change it, and this top line will change accordingly. If you were using two separate dimensions, then this top would remain the same and this one would change, making a rectangle. This makes it much more easier for editing your part. Okay, now that we have a square, what do we do now? We go ahead and hit exit sketch, marking that our sketch right now is done. If you want to go back and edit it, it's fine. We can easily right click on the sketch one and choose the edit sketch option. I'm not sure if you see this option, but it's the topmost one in the menu that appears. So if you click on edit sketch, you can go back to the editing screen that we were on previously. But for now, this sketch of a square is done. Let's go ahead and rotate around it. You can see that this is still very much 2D. It's just a square that we've drawn. It has no 3D properties. We want to make this 3D, however. Let's adjust the view. So one way to adjust the view back is hitting the space bar and choosing, I guess, the length that you want to see it from, the position you want to see it from. Another way is using control and different numbers. Control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That's how those work. So I'm going to choose control 5 to give me the top view that I was on previously. Now we want to change this from 2D to 3D. The way that we use that is one of our features from the command manager that we were talking about previously. So under features, you have a bunch of different options that you can use to change something 2D into something 3D. And the ones that are available to us over here are the most important ones that you're probably going to be using the most often. We're going to use the extruded boss base. The point of this feature is to change something 2D and extend it. You'll see what I mean in a second. So if I go ahead and click on extruded boss base, it's going to ask what I want to extrude. I'm going to go ahead and choose our square that we created. And now you'll see that it's trying to extrude this square into something a little bit more 3D, giving it height or depth. Now we want to make this into a perfect cube. That means that based on our 15 millimeters of length on our square, we want to make that 15 millimeters of height. To make sure that it's symmetric regarding the planes, we want to change this from blind to midplane. That changes it from centered around the base square to equal on both sides of it. Now we can go ahead and edit this from 10 millimeters to 15, specifying the height that we want. And you can see it's already looking like a square, like a cube. If we hit the check mark, now this becomes an actual cube. You see that? Although this is a basic cube, we're not going to stop here. Something that's usually done to, I guess, soften these edges is called a fillet. It's one of the features up above over here, along with the extruded boss base and the revolved boss base that I said that we're going to be using most often. We've already used the extruded boss base, and I'm going to show you fillet. Fillet is something that's usually used to trim sharp edges and usually makes objects look a little bit better. So by clicking fillet, I can go ahead and choose which edges I want to make round. You can see that it's already making these much more rounded. We want to go ahead and edit this so it isn't so much, maybe 2 millimeters. Then we want to select all the lines that we want to fillet. Something that makes this just a little bit easier is once you click on it and move to the top right, another pop-up menu appears. You may not be able to see it on my screen, but if you choose the first option and then the second option, you can see that it's selecting different edges. We're going to choose the second object and fillet all the edges on the cube. Let's hit the check mark, hit Control 7, and there's our cube. Now the only thing left that we need to do is we need to know how to save our cube. So the way we do that is that we go back over to File, and you probably won't be able to see this drop down, but if you go down to Save, or if instead of hitting File on the top over here, there is a Save icon right over here. If we click Save, we can then save our document to our computer. So you want to specify where you want to save your file, and I already have a place picked out over here underneath training. You go ahead and name what your part is. I'm going to name it cube and hit save. This is essential for going back to parts that you want to use again or you want to edit. Something that I think I forgot to talk about is the feature tree. Now that you've seen that we've created a boss extrude with our square and then a fillet all around, you can see that those are all showing up on our feature tree. And this line over here allows you to roll back different features and go back to various stages that you were at in your CAD journey. And there you have a cube and the basics of SolidWorks. So I hope this was informative. Thank you for watching.